You're listening to It Factor, the podcast that uncovers the it that makes companies stand out in the IT BPM industry. In this episode, we're diving into PwC Acceleration Center Manila with Nilesh Sharma, General Manager and Partner of PwC Acceleration Center Manila. So what's PwC's it? Let's find out.
Let's welcome Nilesh to the show. Nilesh, it's a pleasure to be in the newly minted PwC Acceleration Center Manila. It's a beautiful space.
Thank you, Jack. Delighted to be here.
So let's kick it off with the question on, the journey of PwC and the firm, in the Philippine IT-BPM sector. What are some of the highlights and milestones that you'd like to share to our viewers?
The Acceleration Centers is a business in the PwC network that extends across the world. And so, whilst the firm itself globally has roots in mid-19th century, goes as far back as mid-19th century, and the local practice firm of PwC in the Philippines has been around in various shape or form, for about 100 years. Acceleration Center Manila itself is a fairly young kid on the block. We were established in 2011, and I was part of the team from Australia that helped build the center. And at first we came here in search for a cost-competitive labor arbitrage situation, like many of the IT-BPM operators did back in those days. And what we discovered when we got here was that there was more to it than just the cost or labor arbitrage. There were all these highly skilled professionals that were then going to become an integral part of our business in providing innovative solutions to our clients across the globe in audit, tax, advisory, business services, and the like. And so 13 years on, starting from very humble beginnings of around 80 people looking after only a few clients in the Australasia region, we now have over 3,500 people looking after Asia Pacific, Americas, and Europe.
That's quite a story and actually testament to the bedrock of Filipino talent. Now, why did you decide to call it Acceleration?
Yeah, well, initially we came here, it was called a service delivery center, and that was the network branding across the world. And I think once we decided to move up the audit value chain and the service value chain across audit, accounting, tax, and other services, we thought we had to evolve with that, right? So we were all of a sudden in the middle of accelerating our growth as well as that of our member firms across the world. And the name Acceleration Center just sounded about right to describe what we were here to do. A very highly skilled population of well-trained individuals working with top technology in bringing solutions to our clients at a very fast pace.
Now, let's talk about the Philippines. You've been doing business here for quite some time. You've built your brand. Let's talk about the ease of doing business and some of the challenges and opportunities you have found since inception, and how PwC has navigated the policy changes that occasionally happen, and how an organization like IBPAP, as the collective voice of the IT-BPM industry, should continue to support you, because we've been partners for some years now. So maybe you can tell our viewers, how do you navigate these waters?
Just like with anything else, right? If you go into a foreign jurisdiction, if you go to a different land, you have to comply by its rules, right? You have to operate and play by its rules. We knew we had to provide a certain level of investment, and we needed to then, as all businesses do, expect a return on that investment. Now, to do that, obviously, we need to partner up and be at the right table with the right people. That right table for us, amongst others, was the IBPAP table. We became members of IBPAP a long time ago, recently converted that to a platinum status, and we wanted to be there to, return the favor that you in particular, Jack, had given to the entire IBPAP industry during COVID. I remember very clearly how stressful the COVID times were, and to add to that stress, all of a sudden, all our people were not resident inside a PESA zone. Now, the tax incentives, etc., require for us to be in a PESA zone for us to be able to avail those. Now, here we were, beyond our circle of control, not being able to get people back in. And then the tax office and the government of the day, they were all wondering, how do we navigate this particular landmine? And IBPAP came to the rescue and allowed us, working with government, industry bodies, and us, we got an amazing solution in creating this hybrid, more flexible work arrangement that allowed us not to just retain our people, but to attract many more in the future after COVID, to build on that promise of the new normal was going to be different.
We talked about talent development earlier being, really the cornerstone of how our industry has grown. I'd like you to share, what PwC has been doing and will continue to do, in growing and nurturing that talent, working with IBPAP, our partners in the academe, to introduce future relevant skills for the new work types that will be in high demand and where the Philippines can play a role.
When we first came here, we discovered that the Filipino talent, the resilience, their communication styles, that was international class, right? So we have decided to then understand, how do we harness that part of it together with converting them into very highly skilled and trained professionals to then deliver a very high value, experience-driven service model, right, to the world. For example, some of the practical things we are doing, partnering up with public universities, large public universities like PUP, in coordinating and organizing internships, scholarship programs for their accounting class graduates or for technology graduates, and also working with them in trying to identify areas where we could assist them with the actual curricula, with the actual programs that are more industry needs based, right? That create individuals who are vocation ready when they leave school, right? So you've got ready-made people who come into the organization with a bit more business acumen skills, know-how about the platforms they're going to use, the technology and the tools they're going to utilize to deliver their services, a bit more of that, not just textbook learning, right? So we are doing that with public universities, but also some private universities right now in creating that vocation-ready individual. And when they come to us then, we will give them obviously a lot of hands-on experience, because 70% of our learning in this organization happens on the job. That's the focus, that's the philosophy. 70% on jobs, the remainder 30% in classroom settings, through e-learns, through trainings, through other simulations that we do, right? But majority is learned on the job. So here you are, a vocation-ready person, give them all this experience across diverse clients, across the globe, complex areas, amazing, challenging projects, and even global deployments, right? We send our people across to be embedded with clients far away as New York, as Sydney, or in Auckland, New Zealand, or in Singapore, a whole bunch of other areas, Germany. So all of these things combined, Jack, are going to create an individual who is more ready for today's world than what the education system perhaps prepares them even now for, right? And that's not just in the Philippines. Many countries across the world are still trying to work out, how do you prepare an individual who's ready for today's world? And the one big element that we haven't mentioned yet, that is obviously top of mind for everyone in business and outside, is AI, right? We have a philosophy here that it'll be technology driven but human led. AI augmented tools, technology that is just running at a pace that even we can't comprehend, right? And then how do you build enough controls around it to avoid it being a risk in itself, right? So we, as an organization, are investing adequate resources right now to build a truly complete professional for the future. And that's the kind of environment we are trying to create, where we invest enough time, resources, and money.
That's a very comprehensive and articulate description of what PwC is doing to nurture this talent. I want to go back, Nilesh, and ask you about that 30% and 70%.
Yep.
You know, the 30% before they get on the job, right? That is part of the onboarding process, right? And that's a big investment in itself. How many weeks is that before you get your new hires into production?
So that's a very good question, Jack. That 30% isn't just at onboarding. It is onboarding plus throughout their journey in the firm, right? Because continuous learning is a bedrock of our business, right? You got to continuously learn and share and, understand and refresh your knowledge. So, for example, I'll give you an example. In our assurance business, when a person comes into the organization as a fresh graduate, so they're school ready, they're not quite vocation ready yet, we put them through about 6 weeks of training. That's 6 weeks of no client time, but purely investment into people learning the ropes on how to do or how to apply what they have learned at school for many years into actual working knowledge of the work they're about to commence. So that's 6 weeks. And that includes 4 weeks of classroom training, which is a combination of actual classroom teaching plus e-learns, and 2 weeks of simulation. So you sit right next to a person and you do the work that they're going to do, but you do it in a sandbox. And then you compare the work to see how you fared from what you had just learned in the classroom for 4 weeks and then apply it to work. That gives us a good idea of how ready this person is before they get deployed to touch real work.
That's a pretty sizable investment.
Yep.
6 weeks, these employees are getting paid.
Yep.
They are getting upskilled. That's really calls for a very special, I would say, skill set that you must be looking for before you even hire them. So my next question is actually about recruitment. What are the challenges and opportunities PwC is finding in terms of its recruitment strategy?
I just told you about the technical training, right?
Yes.
So now, and then I mentioned that they'll be training right throughout their journey here. That is a mix of technical refreshers plus leadership and soft skill training. Because you want to create people who are able to have a decent communications skills or are able to communicate with clients in a way that gives the client the confidence, no matter where in the world they're calling from, that their work is being done by a trained professional, right? So a PwC professional. And we try and create professionals who are equivalent to their counterparts, Sydney, New York, London, Canada, right? So all of those things together then turn a person into a complete PwC professional. So there's even more investment along the way. Recruitment is always difficult, right? Getting the right numbers of people in record time has been our challenge, because the market is so fierce out there. It's so dynamic out there. And I've been in the Philippines for 10 years myself. And prior to that, I've been involved with the setup of the business, so roughly around 15 years. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, not for one moment has the Philippine or Manila talent market been quiet. It has been the same dynamic market this whole entire time. And we are out there competing for that same talent, right? And everyone is building, growing, expanding. And so it is extremely important for us to then come up with value propositions for our people as to why they should come and work for a PwC. And there are things like what I just mentioned, a world-class training program, diverse multinational clients, a sound investment in technology and tools, and overall, an amazing culture. Our goal is to create safe spaces for our people, spaces where they do not worry about their opinion being different from that of their leaders, where they can safely come up with new ways of doing things and not be shot down, right? Because we thrive on diversity and we want to create a space where people feel safe to do so.
How should we deal with these near hires?
Yeah. So I think, Jack, one of the things I mentioned earlier, right? So you got to have a curricula that is fit for purpose and more attuned to what the industry needs and wants, right? There has to be, at a minimum, a level of technology understanding and knowledge, right? So if the academia was to acknowledge, appreciate, and recognize that, and then reach out to private sector enterprises like us, we are there to help bridge that gap. Then the other thing is communication skills. So having a baseline, curriculum or a baseline teaching opportunity out there in the universities that allows for a certain baseline level of communication skills to be imparted, I think would help greatly. Because you've got one opportunity to sell in that interview, right? And half the time, a lot of people fall out because they can't express themselves well, right? They can't articulate what they're trying to say. Now, we don't obviously just discard people because they couldn't speak in English, but at the same time, it's more than just English. Communication skills goes beyond just the language, right? How you present yourself, how you articulate your viewpoint, and then how you come and deliver is so important for our clients as well, right? As I said, we're trying to create people who are equivalent to their peers in other countries around the world. So we've got to have at least some minimum standards, right?
I couldn't agree more with what you said. Communication is well beyond fluency in English. It even includes comprehension.
Absolutely.
Critical thinking, even problem solving. It's all really interconnected. So let's talk about some of the partnerships that PwC has built with certain universities. I know you have a partnership with Mapua and PUP and some others. Maybe our audience would like to understand what goes behind these partnerships and how is it helping you achieve success?
Yeah. So one interesting fact for you: 13% of our people here, around 400 or so people, are from PUP. They're graduates of PUP.
Wow,
which is a pretty sizable number. 13%, 1-3. And we have been in talks with PUP to assist with the curricula, etc., for vocation-ready people for us, number one. But number two, we are trying to find out other ways in which we could support in facilitating, Jack, basic access to education, right? It has to start at the basics. You got to make sure first the population is getting access to basic education first. And so what we are doing is working with them in coming up with programs or sponsorships, financial sponsorships that allow them to take education to the people who otherwise would never come to the universities.
Right. Stay tuned for part 2 of this episode on It Factor.
Technology and business process management. We are coders and programmers, agile animators, illustrators, auditors, analysts, from consultants to managers, nurturing nurses and doctors, data developers and testers, VA smiling CX stars and artificial intelligence engineers. Oh wait, there's more. We are problem solvers and number crunchers. We speak in several languages, including Java, Python, Python, and so on. And on and on and we on. We create heroes and villains. We gain experience and level up in life.
the IT-BPM industry, working with the Philippines. Join us.
IBPAP.